Hey there, Cancer. It's Louisa Tannemunson joining you from Portugal, hot and sweaty Portugal, I have to say, to give you a forecast for the next 2 weeks ahead, going from the full moon on the 11th of June, the full moon in Sagittarius, right the way through to the new moon in your own sign, in the sign of Cancer, on the 25th of June. Now, this is quite an important time for you because Jupiter, the planet of expansion and hope and optimism, and also abundance. He's one of the benefic planets. He's a beneficial planet. He's just come into the sign of Cancer to really kind of lift you up. Now, I don't know if you're watching this because you've got Cancer rising or Cancer ascendant, or because you've got Cancer sun. These are designed actually for somebody with a Cancer rising sign. Now, they're also designed with a whole sign, traditional, tropical Western model. And so if you're used to whole sign, then please do listen. If you are somebody that loves Placidus as a model, then you can listen to this. And I would also recommend you listen to Leo as well, because half of your first house will have Leo in as well. So that's just there for you. And if you are listening to this because it's your sun sign, absolutely, please do. Don't forget to check out your rising sign too, your ascending sign, because there will be a lot of truth in that for you. So this is pretty much a big time for you. Like I said, Jupiter's just going into your first house. He's also doing a hell of a lot in these 2 weeks. And this is going through the waxing period, from the full moon to the new moon. So we are moving from everything being really illuminated and kind of a bit crazy, coming deeper and deeper and more into ourselves as this goes on. If you want to know much more about this particular process, then please do check out my all sign forecast for this period of time, when I really talk about all of the different impacts going on. But I'm going to do a slightly abridged version, hopefully a shorter version for you. So let's see how that goes. If you're new here, by the way, my name's Louisa Tannemunson. So let's see what comes up. First thing I'm going to do before I bring up any charts is just say thank you to everybody who sponsors this channel and who supports these messages. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much. So anyway, these are the 2 charts that I want to look at. The first one for the full moon in Sagittarius, which you can see here. The full moon is happening in your 6th house, which is very much about the day-to-day. Now, I remember only too well what it's like to have a full moon in this part of your chart. It tends to bring up a lot of things to do with your home, a lot of sort of like craziness, like say there's visitors coming, there's bills to be paid, there's lots and lots of different things going on. So the usual way that you're managing your life in terms of your health, in terms of your finances, in terms of your routines and stuff, they seem to get a little bit topsy-turvy. And it's during a time when your energy levels aren't so strong. The sun is currently in the 12th house. It's in a part of your chart absolutely where you're actually wanting to take a bit of a rest. You're a sensitive little being, and it's time for a bit of a rest. And so this full moon is probably arousing this sense of, oh God, I forgot to do that. And I really, really just want to put my feet up. So be mindful of yourself. Give yourself as much time as possible. So this is a full moon chart, and I will be sort of explaining the key parts of it that I think are really applicable to you. But we're moving to the new moon in Cancer. So during this time, this 2-week forecast from the 11th, the moon here is going to travel all the way around the chart and is going to come here to the sign of Cancer. So let's have a look at that chart now. So you'll see the moon has moved all the way around. And by this point, at the time of the new moon, the sun will have left the 12th house and it will be in the 1st house. So you've got the sun, the moon, you've also got Jupiter, and you've also got Mercury, all 4 of them in your 1st house, really picking up the message of who you are, what you're here to do, what your mission is, how you might be changing, what's your personality, what do people know about you, how do you look. It's very, very much about your identity. So whatever's going on from the full moon until the new moon is informing you about the real identity of who you are. It's no surprise actually that, when the sun's going through the 12th house and then entering into the 1st, and that's happening, by the way, on the 21st of June, on the day of the summer solstice. That's when it happens every time for you, at the time of the solstice. The sun is coming from this place of rest and repose and reflection. And then when the sun comes over into the sign of Cancer, what's happening is you're reminded of who you are. That rest is just what you needed to kind of wake up all those parts of you that have been dormant, and all of a sudden it's kind of a joy to be alive again. You really start to remember who you are. So this is a time of huge integration about who you are. This new moon in your first house is also an indication that your identity is changing. And Jupiter, that I said, is coming in to help change and expand and make bigger your identity. He's also in a conjunction with this particular, new moon. This is pretty big. Interestingly, as we're working through this, you'll already see that Jupiter is in a square with Saturn and Neptune. Now, you'll see that the square is exact on the 15th. You'll also see that Jupiter's got a square with Neptune on the 19th. So these are the tightest parts of these 2 weeks ahead, the 15th to the 19th. Jupiter in your first house is really encouraging you to kind of let down some of your defenses, any of the boundaries that you've usually had. And, trust me, Cancerians have quite a few boundaries that they put up. If you think of their hard shell, and underneath they're just like mushy, so they need these like strong protections. But with Jupiter coming in, you're really letting them down and letting more of life reach you. And right off the bat with Saturn in a square, Saturn is right at the top of your chart, in this part of your chart to do with your career. So it can show as maybe somebody who's very strong, possibly judgmental in your life and in your work. If you're working for somebody else, you might find that you need to pay a little bit more attention to what you're doing, because it's picking on the, like somebody's observing that and kind of judging your performance. And of course, as Jupiter comes into this first house, actually what we tend to feel is a sense of relaxation and a sense of joy being ourselves. And so, yes, we lower our defenses. We do get a little bit more slap happy, a little bit more haphazard. We're not so precise. And so this is causing a bit of a conflict, your need for joy versus your need for precision. And Neptune coming up here as well can also confuse the matters. And, you might work for yourself. And if you work for yourself, you may well find that there's two parts of you. There's the new improved, I'm going to say, relaxed, joyful person that wants to experience life fully and effortlessly and with grace. And then there's this side of you that's afraid to let go of the like written rules that you've created for yourself. That part of you that wants to be highly professional, highly polished, highly this, that, and the other. And so this Neptune and Saturn conjunction, I think, could be bringing quite a bit of confusion as to which role you're going to bring on. And so, like I said, the 15th to the 19th are the times when this is most pronounced. Now, on the 15th as well, there's also a square between Mars and Uranus. They've been building up for quite some time. But, Mars in your second house is, I think, showing you where you're taking real action about your self-esteem and taking real action about your money situation. And yet it feels like there's quite a lot of pressure, like this outside consciousness, maybe coming from your networks. The friends of friends, your business connections, the people that you're networking and collaborating with in life. It feels like there's some tension, maybe tension about money, maybe tension in terms of how things are allocated and how deserving you or they are. So it feels a bit of a bit of a tension. So when you put those two together, in particular on the 15th, in truth, they're already kicking in all the way through this sort of moment in time. But this is, again, like the tightest moment. It may well be that because you're changing the way you're being, that it's having a knock-on effect with the people that you're working in and around. So yeah, it's worth bearing that in mind. Now, the moon is obviously your ruler, and the moon is, obviously from the full moon to the new moon. The moon is coming up to the top of the chart. So to me, it feels like your moon is raising all of the attention about your career and the impact you are having on the world. And then really from around about the 18th, the moon is starting to come back down and bring the meaning that you're creating in the world back into your internal life. So you're less externalized. So I guess if I fit this together, this is really taking place really from the 18th. It just feels like whatever you're trying to work out, you can't do it externally. You can't trust the external messages and clues that are coming in. the pieces of information that you're seeing around you. To me, your decisions have to be done on the inside, definitely from the 18th and leading up to the time of the new moon in Cancer, when to me it feels like a fabulous time to kind of relaunch yourself. Something I would also say is it's time to consider how you look after your body, because during this time, if you're feeling very, very relaxed, Jupiter coming over this part of our charts really shows us when we tend to put on weight. I can vouch for the last time Jupiter went over that part of my chart, I was pregnant for the last time, and obviously I got quite big. So it really, you are about to become larger than life. Now, is that physically or just mentally, emotionally, spiritually? Who knows? But if you don't want to put on the pounds, it's worth taking some action. Jupiter does like the high life. And so that is also something coming on. And you can obviously find out more information about this in my Jupiter and Cancer video, where I pace it out on a sign-by-sign basis. So a couple more things, and then I'm going to let you go. But the sun coming into your first house on the 21st, I think is truly, it's the time for you to, and it's a yearly time. It's the yearly time when it's like your wake up. It's like your alarm clock. It's saying, hey, it's time to be shaken up. It's time to be focusing on who you are. It's time to be a little bit selfish. In fact, this is the time in your life, or one of the many times in your life, but definitely on a yearly basis. This is a significant moment in time. The fact that we've got the new moon in Cancer just after the solstice, and the fact that you've got the new moon in Cancer and Jupiter in this is this happens every 12 years. But this is the big sort of shake up, that your identity is changing. You are meant to get bigger. You are meant to be felt. Your emotions, your kind of compassion, your softness, your gentleness are meant to be felt at a much deeper level. Final things that I just want to emphasize right at the end of this is we've got these two Yods coming in at the time of the new moon. To me, this is really showing that there's a couple of choices that seem available to us. Now, there might be more choices than that, but there seem to be two things that we might consider doing around the time of the new moon. And, I do think this Saturn and Jupiter conjunction, the Saturn and Neptune conjunction has created a little bit of confusion. It's to me, it's like all the things that you knew about who you were are starting to dissolve. Like, this is the old you, the things you were concerned with, the things that you were working towards. To me, it just feels like everything is refocusing and changing. And of course, now Jupiter's here, the sun and the moon are here. It's giving you permission to start to breathe in and enact those changes. And of course, once you change yourself, then the outcomes of your life start to adapt and evolve and move as well. So yeah, here's the two things that I think you may well be focusing on. On the one hand, you might be focusing on practical action at a very local level. So anything you feel very compassionate about, and where you feel like your personality is going to really vibe with, I would say like taking practical action at a local level that is needed, that's going to help you feel good, that's going to allow your compassion to be expressed very, very clearly, then, that's one thing that I see you maybe doing on the side, or adapting into the way you work. The other one, I think, is to focus on the ideologies that you've had in your psychology. Anywhere where you've had a psychology that's been rigid, that has locked you into particular relationships, that's locked you into particular trauma, then that might be something that you also want to take practical action about. This Jupiter in sign of Cancer and the new moon in Cancer is absolutely highlighting a transformation for you. So I guess the big question for you, Cancer, is who are you? Who do you want to be? And what are you going to make of it? So I'm going to leave that there. I hope that's helpful for you. If you do want a little bit more help, then I've got a few things that I've got up my sleeve. One of them is that there's a WhatsApp company. It's a WhatsApp service called Astronex. And if you click on the link that I've put below in the description fields, you can get 5 free astrological questions. So you sign up. It's free. You have your birth chart analyzed across the questions that you're asking. So that's something that might be useful to you. I've also got a membership. And for instance, with this particular forecast that I've done for you, which is very generic, I also create 2 more forecasts for this time period. One of them is about your relationships and connections. The other is about your career and ambition. So, I can take this and focus it on those 2 different aspects of your life, so you can go even deeper with that. And within my membership, there's loads and loads of other perks like discounts and a daily forecast and daily meetups where we're learning about astrology together. So there's lots going on there. The last one is you might want me to have a look at your chart, and if so, all you have to do is just click on the links below. If you have a look in the description field, you'll see that I've put all 3 of those choices that you might want to choose. So have a look and see what works for you. And if you want me to work with you, just book yourself into my diary. So there you go. Sending you loads of love, Cancer. And hopefully you'll have a great 2 weeks, and we can catch up real soon in another forecast. Lots of love to you. Bye for now.